I'm a bit bullheaded, I'm a bit ornery, and I really wanted to be a good motorcycle rider. I wanted to have the skill because I had experienced feeling stupid and feeling weak and feeling like I wasn't being taken seriously because I am a woman. Welcome to Two Track and Tarmac, a podcast dedicated to the adventure motorcycle rider, the rider that frequents both the street and the trails. On the quest to answer that burning question, I wonder where that road goes. I'm your host, Cassie Meyer. I own and operate Moto motorcycle rider training. I've been a professional coach since 2019. My goal with this podcast is to give a female's perspective on the adventure riding segment, the motorcycle community, and the industry. The views and opinions expressed on Two Track and Tarmac are those of the talent and guests alone and may not necessarily represent the official policy or opinions of any organization. The content provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We will discuss motorcycle-related topics, which may include motorcycle riding techniques and suggestions. Two Track and Tarmac is not responsible for any damages, injuries, or losses that you may experience when acting on your own. In this episode, I want to discuss riding like a girl and how that's not such a bad thing. There are a lot of things that new riders and women riders struggle with regarding maybe putting their feet down or having the strength enough to lift their motorcycle. However, some of the skills that women have to learn at the very beginning of their riding career transfers further on as they become intermediate and advanced riders. It actually makes them more skillful than those who never had to learn the tough stuff at the beginning. So riding like a girl's not such a bad thing. There's this trifecta that I see a lot of women struggle with, especially when they're new riders or maybe they're new to adventure riding. And that's this combination of not being able to put their feet down because they usually want to put both feet down, struggling at the starts and stops because starting and stopping is hard, and dropping their motorcycle. Those three things really hold a lot of women back. Here's the thing though. If you can learn how to get through all of those elements with skill and with technique, what you learn at the very beginning and the struggles that you go through at the very beginning are going to help you progress into intermediate and advanced levels because you've learned techniques that most taller riders or men have not learned how to do because they've never had to. Which means riding like a girl isn't such a bad thing because you're going to learn how to optimize your vision, how to use your balance, how to ask the motorcycle to move instead of forcing it to move, and have these really beautiful starts and stops and having control over your motorcycle. This is especially important when you're adventure riding, and if you can learn how to do it out in varying terrain, doing it on the pavement is easy peasy. Also, those skills end up applying to any motorcycle that you ride. So whether you go to a bigger motorcycle or you have to borrow someone else's motorcycle, the techniques that you've learned at the very beginning so that you can learn how to ride like a girl is going to help you in so many other situations as well. So I want to debunk a little bit about this whole putting both feet down. Now, I have a 28-inch inseam and my motorcycle has a 32-inch seat height. That means I can never put both feet flat on the ground. I can tippy-toe or I can put one good foot and that's it. If I believed what people told me that I'm only allowed to ride a motorcycle that I can flat foot, well, then adventure riding would not be for me. And I want adventure riding to be for me because I like riding around in the dirt. So in my opinion, the needing to put both feet down is a two-part thing. One, it's because you were told that by someone or through the industry or whatever. And then the other part is Well, if I can put both feet down, then the motorcycle's not going to fall. And that is ultimately the rider's concern. Not so much about their feet, but if I can't control the motorcycle, I'm going to tip over. And where you're going to tip over most commonly are going to be at your starts and your stops. So let me talk about where I see riders struggle, some of the things that maybe the skills they're lacking, maybe how they're not using a technique properly, or they don't even know that that technique exists, in how to manage where their feet are, how to manage starts and stops, and then, of course, how to lift their motorcycle. Adventure motorcycles are tall. They're designed that way so that they can clear varying terrain. It's exactly the same thing that you see in four-wheeled vehicles. Jeeps are going to be taller than a family sedan. Adventure motorcycles are also taller than most street motorcycles. This happens to put adventure motorcycles somewhat out of the grasp for most women. Generally speaking, men are taller and women are going to be shorter. A common issue is going back to, I can't put my feet down. It's more about reaching, but it's also when they reach, what's happened is they're suction cupping their butt to the seat. They clamp onto the motorcycle because they haven't learned how to move around and let the motorcycle do what it needs to do. So they clamp on with their butt. And then when they go to reach their leg out, then they pull the motorcycle with them as that leg goes out. You're going to end up hitting that point of no return. The bike begins to feel heavy, and then it's going to tip over anyway. It might be a slow and controlled tip over, but it's still going to tip over because you're just not going to be able to hold it up. And your poor little leg, because it's short, isn't going to be able to hold it up either. So what you have to do instead is imagine your butt more like an air hockey puck. So think of an air hockey table. When the air is not on, that puck just doesn't want to slide around. But once the air is on, that puck slides effortlessly. You want to have an air hockey puck butt, which means there's just a little bit of air, a little bit of space between your butt and the seat, which allows you to be able to move side to side on the seat without pulling the motorcycle in that direction. You want to be able to slide your butt over and lengthen this leg so that you can put one foot down. That, of course, is going to mean that this leg has gotten short and you're not going to be able to use it at all. But being able to slide over, lengthen that leg, and put your foot down is going to help keep the motorcycle balanced and keep you nice and stable. A great way to practice this is in static balance. I have some videos on that. You can find them either on YouTube, and I also have a full tutorial on my Moto Patreon page if you're interested in learning more about how you can get really, really good at this. Now, say you've mastered that and you feel really solid about lengthening your leg. You've got that nice air hockey puck butt and you're moving around on the bike with ease, putting one foot down. And putting one foot down is critical as an adventure rider because the ground is going to change. So you're not always going to be able to put both or even a dominate foot down. So make sure that you get really good at putting both feet alternating, putting them down. You have to be equally as good putting your left to your right foot down. Now, starts and stops get tricky because a lot of riders' vision collapses, and if your vision collapses, your balance goes out the window. Because what happens is a rider decides, oh, I'm going to stop right there, and as they roll up to it, they look down, they look down, they look down, and then you look down and now your balance is all wonky and you might fall over or have to throw a leg out really quick to try to catch yourself. The other thing that happens, and they usually happen together, is going too slow. So think about rolling a quarter. If it rolls and it's got some momentum, it's going to have stability. Your motorcycle is exactly the same way. If that quarter starts to slow down, it wobbles. Your motorcycle is going to do the same thing. So if you're going too slowly as you come into your stop and then you look down, well, no wonder you have wobbles and then you tip over. So what you want to do instead is have your vision up. So you're going to pick that spot that you want and then you're going to look past it because it's going to fall into your peripheral vision. and you're gonna have a little bit more speed and then have a deliberate stop at the end. Now, this is where it gets tricky because the last thing that people often do that gums them up with that stop is they panic and they grab a whole handful of front brake. So here, what I want as a deliberate stop is you carry just a little bit more momentum so that you maintain that stability, but then you're going to squeeze to a stop. You don't want to smash on your front brake ever. The other piece is how many fingers you're going to use on that brake lever. So you can use one or you can use two, but you never want to use all four. And that's where a lot of new riders struggle, is because they want to grab the whole thing with their hand. You want to have some finesse. So one or two fingers. And sometimes I only use the two fingers because I'm actually using my middle finger because it's the strongest finger in your hand. It's also the longest, so I can reach that brake lever a little bit better. And this one just hangs out. Other times I am truly just using my index finger. Depends on the brake system that you have. I have hydraulic brakes, so it makes it really easy to pull. If you have cable brakes, then you might need to use both fingers. Again, that middle finger is going to be a little bit longer, give you better reach, and it's going to be stronger. Just don't use all four. So if you can bring your vision up, you can have a little bit more stability using momentum when you come into these stops, and then squeeze with one or two fingers on that brake. That is going to help you with those stops tremendously. Now with the starts, vision is absolute key. Again, you need to have that vision up. It needs to pull you forward. And then you have to have momentum. You can't try to slowly get going, because again, it's like trying to get that quarter rolling. And if you just go, it's just gonna fall over. Your motorcycle's gonna do the same thing. So use a little bit of momentum, regain that stability, use your vision to pull you forward. Now the last piece, of course, is picking up your motorcycle when it inevitably is going to fall over. I want you to practice lifting your motorcycle just like you practice your static balance and lengthening your leg, just like you practice your starts and your stops. You need to practice lifting your motorcycle, especially if you're an adventure rider, because it will end up on the ground. There is no way around it. If you're an adventure rider and you've never dropped your motorcycle, I'm going to question whether you're actually an adventure rider. So practice lifting your motorcycle. Lay it down in your garage, lay it down in your yard, wherever you want. Try to lay it on flat ground when you start, but practice how to do this. There are a couple of different techniques. There is some strength required in all of these, but learning these techniques to prevent injury and lift using as little energy as possible is going to help you when you're out on the trail. Because even the best riders only have so many lifts in them in a day. So you kind of have like a quota. If you can only lift that motorcycle 3 times and you've dropped it 3 times on the trail, you're going to be completely gassed. These weigh a lot, and it's not a walk in the park to just lift them. Like, you have to work to lift them. So if you can learn the balance, learn how to move your feet around, learn how to do really beautiful starts and stops, you're gonna drop your motorcycle less. However, the more advanced you get, you'll drop the motorcycle on more challenging terrain, and then you got to learn how to pick it up there, and that's okay. You will. But this is how to get started. So learn these techniques. For me, I have a 550-pound motorcycle. It has boxer engines because it's a BMW, so it doesn't fall completely flat. My preferred method for lifting that motorcycle, partly because of its size and because of my height, is I prefer doing what's called a back-in lift. If I was going to lift a smaller motorcycle, like let's say a lightweight dual sport, like a 350-pound bike, I might actually choose to do the bar lift instead. Now, I have videos on both of these, so please take a look at them. If you want the full tutorial about how to get into these lifts, do the right technique, and protect yourself, you can find those on the Clear Moto Patreon page. You can find more information about Patreon down in the show notes below. Now that you have all of that, I think riding like a girl has more to do also with what it feels like to be a woman in a male-dominated sport on a really tall motorcycle. Some women might feel a little out of their depth. Some may thrive in it. My personal journey with adventure riding, I started on a large motorcycle and I fell all the time. I fell a lot and I got frustrated a lot. And I got really determined because I'm a bit bullheaded, I'm a bit ornery, and I really wanted to be a good motorcycle rider. I wanted to have the skill because I had experienced feeling stupid and feeling weak and feeling like I wasn't being taken seriously because I am a woman. I think at the time it also had something to do with my age. I was younger. I've been riding motorcycles for 20 years, so I started this when I was a teenager. However, I didn't start adventure riding until 2018. But I think one of the cool things about riding like a girl is, again, that I had to learn how to have really good balance. I had to learn how to have technique. I had to learn how to ask the motorcycle to maneuver. I couldn't force it. In fact, I even teach my male clients how to ride the motorcycle by asking instead of forcing. And they're usually so surprised at how easy it feels to move the motorcycle around when they're not using strength. The other thing that I really learned as a girl riding adventure motorcycles was troubleshooting. I have this saying that if I'm dumb enough to get myself in, I'm dumb enough to get myself out. And what that means is that when I drop my motorcycle or I get myself into this predicament out on the trail, I got myself there. And it's important to me to be able to troubleshoot it and figure it out so that I can get myself turned around, get picked back up, or whatever I need to do in that moment. Now, I have no problem asking for help. However, that was really hard for me at the very beginning because I was so ornery and because I was learning all the skills and pushing myself so hard because I had something to prove at the time. It's turned out that it's worked really well for me almost 10 years later in the adventure riding segment. However, it also turned out that I struggled a lot. But that's my learning style. That's just the way that I am. I want to be able to do things on my own. I know that the bike that I ride is big, and I want to be able to prove to people that I can ride it. Now, anymore, it's not so much about proving it because I know I can ride it, and that's not a problem. So that's where it's shifted for me. Is it's not about proving anything anymore. It's just about having those skills. But having the skills has gotten me to a place where I don't have to prove myself. Because in a male-dominated sport, I've always felt like I needed to. I'm a pretty average size woman, standing at 5'4". Again, my inseam is 28 inches, and my seat height on my motorcycle is 32 inches, and it weighs 550 pounds. So whatever your journey ends up being, whatever motorcycle you have, however you want to go about this and what your personal drive is for it, I encourage you to learn to ride like a girl. And boys, I want you to also learn to ride like a girl. Even if you can put both feet down, I want you to practice only putting one foot down. And then I want you to alternate left, right, left, right. I want you to practice those starts and those stops. Make them beautiful, make them controlled, have tremendous amounts of balance. And then practice lifting your motorcycle because you don't want to have to learn how to do it the first time when you're out and about and you're embarrassed or you're in a hurry. Regarding this episode, I would love to hear how you ride like a girl. Tell me some of the things that have held you back, maybe some of the things that you have gotten over, where you have fear, where you have confidence, and what you hope to see for yourself in the future as an adventure rider. Thank you for listening to Two Track and Tarmac, my podcast dedicated to you, the adventure motorcycle rider. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider subscribing and sharing it with a friend. If you're looking for even more motorcycle rider content, please consider subscribing to the Clear Moto Patreon page, where you can find more training videos, tutorials, and my monthly newsletter. Your support both through the podcast and through Patreon helps me do what I enjoy doing, which is sharing my motorcycle knowledge with you. Thank you again so much for listening to Two Track and Tarmac, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.